Have any of you ever done an escape game before? Ever been a part of an escape room before? And if you haven't, that's okay. So, an escape room, this is an activity that you can do with friends and family. I've done several of them. And you have to then solve various puzzles within about an hour. That's the typical time frame. You and your group are put into a room and you must solve various puzzles in order to escape the room. Now, there's with these different puzzles, they go along with a different theme, such as like a diamond heist. Like you're robbers trying to break into a museum to steal the diamond and get out. Or there was one where my family, we were prisoners in an actual prison and we tried to escape the prison. And they range in various difficulties. Sometimes they're really easy and sometimes they're harder. It all depends on the game. Now, one thing I do want to make clear though, with an escape room, sometimes people get a little bit scared with these games because they believe, oh, they lock you in these escape rooms that you can't get out. Well, rest assured, they don't actually lock you in. Now, if you actually do need to leave to like use the bathroom or if there's some type of emergency, you can obviously leave the room. Like there's a special button that you can press, and it's not like a hidden button, it's like a big red button. So then all you gotta do is just press it and then you can open the door. But they have special rules that like you can't look at your phone when you're outside or anything like that. But with these games, they can be different puzzles. There's different puzzles that you have to do within these the 60 minutes, and it can range on the number of puzzles. It's not like one or two difficult puzzles. You might have to do like nearly like 30 or 40 different puzzles throughout the hour. And it's more than just trying to figure out riddles or different, like putting different puzzle pieces together. There was one puzzle that I thought was really, really creative. This one puzzle, which I'm very thankful that my mom was actually in this particular escape room because we were given different containers that had spices in them, like different seasonings and spices, and you had to smell them and figure out what they were. And we had the containers didn't have the label of that seasoning, and we had like a little tray, and each there was like cinnamon here and then cumin and then salt or pepper and like different seasonings like on this little tray. And we had and on the number on the bottom of these containers had numbers on them. And so we had to smell the seasoning and then put it at the right spot. And then on the bottom reveal the code to open the next lock for the next puzzle. And so sometimes these puzzles they would open up a door to a completely different room. And so we had to do all these different puzzles, all these different activities in order to get to the next room. But then ultimately we had to find the one final key to open up the final door to officially escape the room. There was only one key that could open that door. And today we're actually going to be talking about a very special door, a very unique door. Now, today we're continuing in our I Am series, and today we actually get a double feature I Am statement. See, last week we had a kind of like a double two-parter where we looked at where it was a connection with multiple I Am statements of Jesus, but today we get a double feature I Am statement. We have I am the gate or I am the door, and some of your Bibles might say I am the door. Um, and I am the good shepherd. Now, some people might say, like, oh, shouldn't these just be separate messages? Like two completely different things, but they actually go one in the same. They're so close together and so connected. We're actually going to be focusing on both of them together today. Now, just a little extra context before we get into John chapter 10. We look into John chapter 9, where we see that Jesus, he heals a blind man. And this is a time where Jesus looks at the man, he takes mud, or he takes dirt, spits in it, and then makes a mud and puts it on the man's eyes. And then Jesus tells the man to go wipe his eyes in the pool of Siloam. And he goes and he cleans off his eyes, and he is able to see once again. And then at the end of chapter 9, we see Jesus is talking with this very same person. And so in verse 35 of chapter 9, we see Jesus heard that they had thrown him out. And when he had found him, he said, "Do you believe in the Son of Man?" Now, the people that threw this man out, those were the Pharisees. They wanted to confront this guy who was once blind, but now he can see. It's like, how did you become unblind again? Like, how did you see once again? And this guy talked about, like, yeah, this guy, like, he cured me of my sight. And he even said that, like, how can he not be from God if he could cure my blindness? Well, the Pharisees didn't like that, and so they threw him out. So continuing on, so in again the end of chapter 9 in verse 36, "Who is he, sir?" the man asked. "Tell me so that I may believe in him." Jesus said, You have now seen him. In fact, he is the one speaking with you." Then the man said, "Lord, I believe," and he worshiped him. And so Jesus is talking with this man, and this man realizes he's talking with the Son of Man, the Messiah. The Son of Man is one of the many titles of Jesus. And so he now understands this guy is truly the Messiah. He worshiped him. He said, "Lord, I believe." And Jesus even talking about in this section how he has come so that the blind would see, and those who will become, and those, I'm sorry, the people who were once blind can now see, and the people who can see would then become blind. But then in verse 40, we see some of the Pharisees who were with him heard this and asked, "What? Are we blind too?" See, remember, the Pharisees were focused on the law. They were focused on how if you believe the law, if you follow the law, then you get to go to heaven, that you are the good people. And so they kind of acted more like, "You're not talking about us, right? We're not blind." But then in verse 41 said, Jesus said, "If you were blind, you would not be guilty of sin. But now that you claim you can see, your guilt remains." Because Jesus is saying, like, because you focus more on the law, because you are so focused on obeying the law, you are still blind. You act like you can see, as we talked about a few weeks ago. The Pharisees, a lot of the Pharisees, they were spiritually blind. Jesus wasn't talking about physical blindness, he was talking about spiritual blindness, which, friends, as we talked about before, spiritual blindness is far worse than physical blindness. Or I'm sorry, physical blind. I'm sorry. Let me rephrase it. Spiritual blindness is far worse than physical blindness. Sorry about that. All right. So now we can get into the main portion of our text today. So looking into John 10. The first point we have the authority of the shepherd. So starting in verse 1 of chapter 10, which says, "I tell you the truth, the man who does not enter the sheep pen by the gate, but climbs in by some other way, is a thief and a robber. The man who enters by the gate is the shepherd of his sheep. The watchman opens the gate for him, and the sheep listens to his voice. He calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. When he has brought out all his own, he goes ahead of them, and his sheep follow him because they know his voice. But they will never follow a stranger. In fact, they will run away from him because they do not recognize a stranger's voice." Verse 6, Jesus used this figure of speech, but they did not understand what he was telling them. So again, this is the first point, authority of the shepherd. Now, the imagery of a shepherd is a very familiar one. It's a very well-known occupation during this time. In fact, very famous Bible characters are shepherds, such as Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Moses, even King David himself was a shepherd. And so people during this time, they understood, okay, a shepherd, they understand the occupation, they knew what a shepherd would do and who they are. And what's unique is that shepherds, like you kind of use the title lowly shepherds. Friends, shepherds, the occupation was they were unclean in the law. They were unclean to the people. That occupation was so low, they were just unclean. In fact, shepherds were known to be untrustworthy. In fact, they were so untrustworthy, shepherds couldn't even be used as a witness in the courts. That's how lowly shepherds were. And yet, what's so interesting is that even though they were considered to be unclean and untrustworthy, shepherds were responsible for gathering the perfect lambs, the lambs without blemish, to be presented to the temple to be used for sacrifices. They had to be on the alert to make sure that these unblemished lambs remained perfect. They would even wrap them in a special swaddling cloth in preparation for to be sacrificed. Now, friends, do we know of a special lamb that was wrapped in swaddling cloth that was meant as a sacrifice? Jesus. Now, so going back to the text, we see that Jesus is saying that whoever climbs into the sheep pen is a thief. Whoever climbs into the sheep pen is a thief. Like, think of it today. If there's a thief who wants to steal, let's just say, for an example, an expensive pair of shoes at a convenience store, at some type of retail shop, they would probably want to go through a certain way so that they don't get detected by the cameras or security guards. So they might want to go through the back entrance. They might want to or go through the vents, as we might see in some famous movies. They don't want to encounter the watchman, the gatekeeper, the security guard, the shepherd, because they're standing at the gate. They're standing in front of the sheep pen. And we see that whoever enters into the sheep pen is the shepherd. He's the one that the sheep know, the one that the sheep will follow. In fact, we even see in this text that the sheep will not follow a stranger. They will not follow a stranger. They will run away from this stranger, but they will follow the shepherd because the shepherd knows them. They know the voice of the shepherd. In fact, the shepherd calls the sheep by name. And friends, we even do the same thing today with our pets or even with farm animals. We might give them different names. Now, I'm not talking about like they named a sheep little cotton ball here, but they give them a name. They give them something unique. They call them out by name. And the shepherd knows them because they gave the name. They know who this shepherd is. And they will follow this shepherd. See, the shepherd is not this person who sits in the back of the herd who is kicking and pushing the sheep, but he's up in front. He leads the sheep of where to go, to find food, to find pasture. You see, a shepherd leads different compared to a cowboy. See, a cowboy would have to be in the back, and you might have multiple cowboys, such as some in the back, some on the side, to make sure the cows are moving in the direction that they are supposed to go. That you have to push them in order to get moving. But for the sheep, you lead in front. You're the one who takes them to green pastures. You're the one who is up in the front to make sure that there's no danger up in the front. And so Jesus is using this type of speech for people to understand what he is saying, but yet they don't understand, which when have they truly understood at this point anyway? So then we get into verse 7, which this is the first I am statement for today. I am the gate. So verses 7 and 10, which says, therefore, Jesus said again, I tell you the truth, I am the gate for the sheep. All who ever came before me were thieves and robbers. Well, the sheep did not listen to them. Verse 9, I am the gate. Whoever enters through me will be saved. He will come in and go out and find pasture. Verse 10, the thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I have come that they may have life and have it in the full. So Jesus, he expands on this illustration about the shepherd, but that he is the gate. He's the watchman. He's the person at the gate. See, during this time with the sheep pen, there might not have been like an actual like physical gate. There might not have been like some type of wooden door to open up and everything, but it might have been an actual watchman, an actual shepherd who sits at the gate to keep an eye on the sheep while they're inside the pen. He's watching over them, making sure that they don't get eaten by predators or stolen by these thieves. In fact, we even see this where verse 8, all whoever came before me were thieves and robbers. This is talking about the false prophets, the false teachers, the people who came before Jesus and said, I am the Messiah, come follow me. But people didn't listen. They knew that this guy was false because these false teachers did not live to the standard of Jesus. See, friends, there's a long list of requirements to be the Messiah. And you had to fulfill all of them in order to be the Messiah. It's not like, oh, you missed one or two, that's okay. It's very tough to fulfill all of them. In fact, the odds of even just fulfilling 8 of the prophecies, the odds of that, the number is so high, our minds cannot comprehend it. Those are the odds of being the Messiah. And there's only been one person on earth who has successfully done that. I'll give you a hint. It's Jesus. Now with Jesus, he's the one, he's at the gate. He is the gate. Whoever enters through him will be saved. They'll have that protection. They'll be in a safe environment. He offers entrance. He offers freedom. That's what the gate offers. He offers freedom, protection from the predators. But more than that, not just the safety of inside of the sheep pen, but also being able to go out and find good pasture. As we see there in verse 9, able to find good pasture. Able to find food, able to have protection, safety, freedom. In fact, the famous psalm that talks about a shepherd, Psalm 23, the first 2 verses, it says, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not be in want. Now, this is talking about, like with King David, he's talking about how God is his shepherd. It's not that he doesn't want the shepherd, but he doesn't want anything else but God. All he wants is the shepherd. That's what he wants. And the shepherd, he makes him lie down in green pastures. Green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. That's peace, friends. Peace, comfort, safety, food, everything that is needed for the sheep. That is what the gate leads to. More than just opening and closing, but it's what leads, what the gate brings us to. Safety, comfort. The thief that climbs over only has intentions for themselves. We even see verse 10, the thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. Jesus saying that I have come that they may have life. See, the thief is only looking to build up himself. But Jesus, he came to build up the flock. He wants the flock to live, to survive. So that was the gate. So Jesus says, I am the gate. And now we get into the second I am statement. Again, the double feature. Jesus says, I am the good shepherd, starting in verse 11. So again, starting in verse 11, I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. The hired hand is not the shepherd who owns the sheep. So when he sees the wolf coming, he abandons the sheep and runs away. Then the wolf attacks the flock and scatters it. The man runs away because he is a hired hand and cares nothing for the sheep. So a little understanding on this first part here, where we see Jesus, again, he's claiming that he is the good shepherd. And he actually makes that statement twice in this little section here. And he also says that he lays down his life for his sheep. And he makes that statement multiple times, even more than twice in this section here. Jesus is talking about how the hired hand, he's the one who, whenever he sees danger, sees the wolves coming, he runs away because he's not the shepherd. He abandons the sheep. You see, shepherds, they were the tough people of this time. They were very tough, very strong. See, it's more than just taking care of the sheep, feeding them once in a while, making sure that they don't like fall down a cliff or anything like that, and then trim them up for the wool or anything. They were the people that said, hey, where's the danger? If they see danger, such as wolves, but more than that, maybe there's bears, there's hyenas, there's so many different animals that could come in and attack the wolves. See, the hired hand, they say, when they see danger, they say, I don't get paid enough to be eaten by that animal. I'm gone. But the shepherd, the one who actually owns the sheep, the one who is taking responsibility for the sheep, goes to the danger and stands between the wolf and the sheep. They are defending the sheep. And friends, I would not be surprised if many shepherds died while protecting their flocks. Because like I said, this is a very dangerous job. They're kind of like the firemen or like the policemen, the military in a way. While all of us, multiple people, they run away when they see danger, it's the firemen, the policemen, the military, they run towards the danger. That's what Jesus is saying here. He's talking about how he is going to protect the flock. He is willing to lay down his life for the flock. So continuing on in verse 14, it says, I am the good shepherd. Again, this is Jesus. So I am the good shepherd. I know my sheep, and my sheep know me. As we talked about earlier, how the shepherd calls out to the sheep because the sheep know the shepherd, and they even call out to the sheep by name. Verse 15, just as the Father knows me, I know the Father, and I lay down my life for the sheep. I have other sheep that are not of the sheep pen. I must bring them also. They too will listen to my voice, and there shall be one flock and one shepherd. The reason my Father loves me is that I lay down my life only to take it up again. No one takes it from me, but I lay it down on my own accord. I have authority to lay it down and authority to take it back up. This command I received from my Father. So we see that Jesus, he's saying that the Father, just as the Father knows him, he knows the Father. And we've talked about in this series how Jesus has talked about how he knows the Father, that he and the Father are one. That Jesus, he's not doing this on his own will. He's not doing his own will, but he's doing the Father's will. We also see that in verse 16, I have other sheep that are not of this sheep pen. I must bring them also. They too will listen to my voice, and there shall be one flock and one shepherd. See here, Jesus, he's talking about there's more than just the Jews who belong to this sheep pen. He's talking about the Gentiles, bringing them into the sheep pen. They will listen to his voice. They will go to the voice of Christ and be a part of the sheep pen. See, Jesus, he's not wanting there to be, he's not saying that he is a good shepherd. He's not saying he is a gate, but he's saying he is the good shepherd. He is the gate. That there's only one way to salvation, and it's through Christ. How he mentioned earlier that there were people who came before him, the false messiahs. He doesn't want there to be any false shepherds in the world. He just wants one flock, for everyone to come to the one good shepherd. That means all the other shepherds, they're false shepherds. They're not good shepherds. They're bad shepherds. He wants there to be one flock with one shepherd. And he even says again that he lays down his life only to take it up again. Friends, he's talking about his resurrection. He's talking about his death and resurrection. That he's willing to lay down his life for the flock. In fact, in verse 18, he says, no one takes it from me, but I lay it down on my own accord. As in, no one is forcing him to lay down his life. He knew that God wanted him to sacrifice himself for the flock. And Jesus knew what he had to do. And he's talked about this throughout his ministry, that he was going to die, that he was going to be the one and final perfect sacrifice for the world. And he does it on his own accord. He is willing to lay it down. I have authority to lay it down and the authority to take it back up again. That he will rise from the dead, that he will come back to life after he has laid down his life. And then we get to our final point today. We see in the last few verses, we see confusion with the Jews, confusion among the Jews. There's confusion with the Jews because there's division here. Verse 19, it says, at these words, the Jews were again divided. Many of them said, he is demon possessed and raving mad. Why listen to him? Verse 21. But others said, there are not the sayings of a man possessed by a demon. Can a demon open the eyes of the blind? See, it's possible. So that man, the man that was born blind, who now could see, he's possibly like within this area. And maybe some of the people that are even listening to Jesus are the people who were in the couple chapters prior in the temple courts, who before they said, yeah, this guy is demon possessed. Friends, they're still saying that Jesus is demon possessed. They're continuously saying that he has a demon within him. They even said that he is raving mad, that this guy is crazy. Like, how can this guy truly be the Messiah? He's just a man. And later on in this chapter, in fact, very same chapter, in verse 33, it says, this is Jesus talking. We are not, or I'm sorry, this is the Jews talking to Jesus. We are not stoning you for any of these, any of the good works that Jesus has done, replied the Jews, but for blasphemy, because you mere man claim to be God. That's why people were upset, because Jesus was claiming to be God. Friends, people today have said that Jesus never claimed to be God. Friends, the Jews knew what he was saying. The Jews knew what he was claiming to be. And so Jesus, he was one of two things. He was either mad, he was actually crazy, or he truly was the Messiah. Which the fact that he did truly rise from the dead proved that he was and still is the Messiah. Now, there are people who, again, they said that he was demon possessed, but there were still other people. It's like, if he's demon possessed, then how can he open the eyes of the blind? Can he truly be demon possessed and open the eyes of the blind? But, friends, that's what Jesus came to do. In fact, we see this in Isaiah chapter 35, verses 4 through 6. It says, be strong, fear not. Behold, your God will come with vengeance, with a competence of God. He will come and save you. Then the eyes of the blind shall be opened, and the ears of the deaf unstopped. Then shall the lame leap like a deer, and the tongue of the mute sing for joy. For waters break forth in the wilderness, and streams in the desert. Friends, that's what Jesus came to do. That was the sign that the Messiah is here. That the blind would see, the lame will walk, the deaf will hear, and those who would mute would sing for joy. So with this application, there's a few things I want you to take home with you. The first one is Jesus is the gate for salvation. There is only one gate. Jesus didn't say he is a gate, as in one option to salvation, but he's the gate. Just like what we saw last year with Noah and the ark. How could people be saved from the coming flood? It was to go through the door in the ark. That was the only way to be saved. You couldn't let the waters like rise a little bit and then you can start floating. There were waves coming in left and right. The only way to be saved was to go through the door on the ark. Jesus saying the same thing here, that he is the gate, that he is the door to salvation. The gate provides salvation. That is the only gate. Second, Jesus is our shepherd who provides for us. The shepherd is to do more than just feed us and name us, but it's his job to protect us, a comforter, a protector, a leader. That's what a shepherd does. Friends, even though a shepherd in the first century was considered to be untrustworthy, not a good profession, shepherds were those people you do not want to be associated with. And yet, they were responsible for bringing the perfect lamb to the temple to be sacrificed. The good shepherd knows his flock. People go to the shepherd because he is trustworthy. He's not the thief that climbs over the gate or climbs over the sides. He wants to protect the whole flock. Christ wants one flock with one shepherd. Our last application is that we have the same message. Throughout the Bible, we have the same message, but different illustrations. Friends, throughout this whole series, we're seeing Jesus, he's using different illustrations. He said that he's the bread of life, the light of the world. I am the gate, I'm the good shepherd, and we got a few more to go. But all of them, he's saying the same thing, that he is the Messiah. He is the only thing that can satisfy us, the only thing that can lead us, guide us, protect us. He is the only one that can bring us to salvation. That he is God. And friends, I'm going to close with the same challenge that I've been saying throughout the series. Will you follow Jesus? Friends, every single message that we have gone through in this series, the Jews are angry. They're confused, trying to understand what is this guy saying here. We saw when Jesus said he was the bread of life, people left him, did not want to follow him anymore. We even see here that the people that he was talking to are now divided. Some are saying he's demon possessed. Some are saying he is the Messiah, and there's conflict. There is division. Friends, I understand that this can be a very complicated and difficult series to understand, and some parts of scripture are very complicated, but friends, just because it's difficult doesn't mean it's not important. It doesn't mean it doesn't lead to Christ. So friends, even with all of this going on, even with all these teachings that Jesus is saying here, ask yourself this one question. Will you follow Jesus? Let's close in prayer.